Hello and welcome to Rally FC. That's right, Rally FC, the Ghostwriter podcast. The podcast that very much like Ghostwriter himself can only be seen by a small group of people, apparently. But I am not going to be doing this alone. I have with me today a guest who's does a whole lot of things. I know she's an actor, and I'm sure she'll tell us what else she does. Everyone, welcome Christina Leidel.
Oh my God! Hey.
Did I even say your last name right? Because I got there and I was like, I'm not sure. I forgot to ask.
Say it again.
Leidel.
That is like the most perfect first attempt anyone has ever had. I know I've gotten ladle.
Wow.
Leidel, all the permutations.
Oh, well, Christina, it's great to have you here with us today.
It is great to be here. I did not expect to be asked to do such a thing that I would have already have been doing.
You know what? It's really funny. I actually remember asking Adina about you doing one of my podcasts. Like, I've been doing this since like 2017. And
she was like, don't do it.
Well, I remember asking, because you did their podcast. It came from the bottom. And I was like, well, it was insane, but it sounded like a lot of fun.
That wasn't our fault, though. That was Fat Slag's fault. That is...
Yeah, understandably everything. So. But I, for some reason, thought that I had messaged you and just never heard anything back, and that Adina told me that was typical. But I looked, and I'm like, if I sent you a message, I don't know how I did it, because I could not find it on Facebook.
I don't recall any such thing.
But you're here now, which is the important part.
I didn't ghost you before. I didn't pre-ghost you. I promise.
Well, I appreciate that. But I do have a very important question for you. It's a question I ask all of my guests. And that is this. Christina, how much do you hate me for asking you to watch this show?
Bruh, let me tell you. I am one of the two people in the state probably who was like, I've already seen every season. What do you mean?
Right?
So, I remember being an avid daily or weekly, however frequently they aired it.
Yeah.
I remember watching it when it was new.
Sure.
And even then thinking, wow, this is some fashion.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, no, but I remember being really into it at the time.
Yeah. Now, did you? Because I also watched it when it first came on. I know. I grew up in Arkansas, and where I was watching it on that PBS channel, it ran on Sundays, and I think it ran in an hour block. Like, they would show whatever episode they had showed last week plus a new one. So even if you missed a week, you could still easily catch up.
So I was in Ohio, and I don't remember what the schedule was for our PBS.
Sure.
It strikes me as odd to replay the whole previous episode and then play the 16-minute recap of the previous episode that every episode starts with.
Sure.
So I guess that's what they used as bathroom breaks when it wasn't a pledge drive and they're not asking you for, here's a tote bag.
Which is the majority of what was on PBS, right?
Right, it was again, 80% of it was the tote bags.
Now, I mean, did you ever get any of the merchandise? Because I've said, I had a Ghostwriter pen. I had, the little Ghostwriter detective book. And I think I may have even had, one of the mysteries that they did for books. Did you have any of that stuff?
I think I had, whatever I had was probably a knockoff.
Okay.
I would, rather than being able to purchase the officially licensed notebooks, I would get I'd probably get the the discount bin marbled notebook and just put the
right Ghostwriter on it
on the front. Yeah. But I do think that I had a pen. Is this the same pen that you had where you would write it in invisible ink and then on the other end it would have a little black light and it would then is that the only way you could read it?
I mean, I definitely do remember like those secret message pens. I don't remember it being a Ghostwriter thing.
Maybe I'm conflating the two. Because I was certainly deep into adulthood when I got a similar thing with a sonic screwdriver. So this could have been last week for all I know. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I think my Ghostwriter pen was just a little bit more impressive than the ones they had on the show. Because, on the show, official Ghostwriter pen just means pen on a string.
But no, it doesn't mean that. It means that your handwriting automatically becomes the same as theirs, right? Because however many dozens of children are in this group, they all have the same handwriting.
Yeah, I've said several times, I'm pretty sure they had like a handwriting like double or something like that, because it's insane. Yeah, they had to. All right. Well, let's talk about this episode in particular, this story, which is called Over a Barrel.
Or Gaby gets COVID.
Not far from it. Jeez.
The first episode I was like, I don't.
Yeah, it's super timely, right? But the main storyline of this one is, like you said, Gaby gets sick, and the team eventually uncovers chemical barrels that were buried in their garden, their community garden. And basically the whole rest of the story is them trying to figure out who it was that dumped the barrels and how they can figure out how to get them out.
Yeah, this episode, or all of them, were like, this is how to introduce children to
how much the government
the concept of corruption and bureaucracy.
Yeah, oh yeah. The whole thing, I was just like, because like there's a bit where they're like, well, we can't just remove the barrels. They've got to be done this way. And it's got to go through this agency and this. I was like, oh, so this is how we teach kids that government sucks. Awesome. Okay.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah, like the whole, because there's always, every episode has at least one obligatory Lenny rap montage. And the first episode it's like, all of it is like 8 minutes of them being on hold.
Right.
Being forwarded to a different agency.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then later on, they introduce them to the fact that the legal system sucks. I mean, we'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
Yeah. But like, I remember this was, if not the first full story that I watched, one of them. Do you remember seeing this one as a kid?
I do, and I don't remember like how long I had been watching when this one came up. It runs in my head that I was pretty up to date with as they were released.
Oh yeah.
So I think they were pretty much in order as I saw them, because even though I had like 2 seasons of knowing Alex and Tina, that was still like, okay, what?
Yeah. I mean, I'm watching it now because, I'm watching every story as we go along. And now it's like, okay, they dropped the hint of that from the very first story arc. And they've done subtle little things of, oh, Tina's the only one really concerned about Alex twisting his ankle, or Alex is always the first one to ask Tina if she's okay with something, things like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was really, it kind of became, quote, official in the last one. Although she really did make it like, what's really going, because she was like, I'd rather go out with my good friend Alex. And it's like, not sure where we are here.
Yeah, no, that's the thing though, is that in context of all of the history of the seasons up to that point, however, whatever was seeded and hinted at prior, the moment itself had no lead up. You're in a garbage truck in the middle of a stakeout, and you just...
Okay.
What?
We've got to build up to this. Okay, so...
Okay, go.
All right. First of all,
Spoilers.
we're going to jump right to this, but I do need to build this whole thing up. Because
Sure.
they are there, they're at the garbage thing because they're wanting to basically, stake out the guy that they think has dumped the barrels. And either Alex volunteers both of them or Tina says she's going to go and Alex is like, oh, I'm going too. And the moment that they walk into this this back room area and stuff like that, I'm just looking around and I'm like, this is the worst first date ever.
No. Just, it's all a whole pile of nope. It's no.
and then I think like the second time they go back is when they get, they're recording the guy doing the shredding or whatever, and then they run into the truck with all the garbage. And he kisses her, and I'm just like, Alex, you are the worst date ever. It's just like...
That's not good enough, Alex.
Yeah, really not. Like, up to this point, we've discovered that Alex, for the most part, is just not up to snuff. But for him to kiss Tina for the first time in the back of a truck with garbage in it, really...
That's not good enough, Alex.
Just really not.
That's not good enough, Alex.
I will say they've definitely toned him down. Like in the last episode, they basically gave all of his jerky bits to Rob, they've definitely. He's still kind of impulsive and stuff like that, but they've definitely kind of regulated him a bit. I will say, as they're 13. It's not like we're planning a future for them or anything. But there's a point later on in the episode where, they're making the plan of how they're going to confront this guy or whatever. And Alex is like, what if I jumped up and made a really big speech and blah, 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 blah. And Tina's just like, I don't think that's a very good idea. And just kind of like turns him around. I was like, they're almost perfect because they're exact opposites. He's super impulsive and she's super like, focused and like, let's do this instead. It's like, it works, I guess.
And they got a lot of his bullshittery out in that arc of What's the Matter with Alex, I think it was called.
I mean, that's coming up, but yeah.
Oh, that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, no, this is one episode. Like, we've only got one more episode in season 1. And that episode you're talking about is at the end of season 2. So, yeah. But yeah, so, I mean, getting back to kind of like the main storyline of what's going on. So yeah, like I said, the whole thing starts when Gaby and the whole team are working in the Fort Greene Community Garden. And you can tell something bad is about to happen because the music all of a sudden goes... and then...
the synths.
Yeah. And then Gaby faints. And I will say, I played this a couple of times because I was like... number one, I was just trying to get what was going on. But also, I noticed something. When she falls down, all of a sudden, like, everybody gathers around her. Ghostwriter even comes around, and all of a sudden, he goes, like, on top of her chest and starts pulsating. And I'm like, is Ghostwriter trying to give her CPR? What is going on here?
No, this was a question that I had rewatching this. Was like, wait a minute, like Ghostwriter supposedly cannot see or hear, so how the hell does he know that anything is up?
Right. I mean, I will say they've established several times that he can feel them, and so maybe it was like suddenly he couldn't feel Gaby. And I mean, he has established that even like when they're asleep, he has a general idea of where they are. But
so this shouldn't be different than her being asleep as far as being able to sense.
Right. But I mean, it was so sudden. Maybe that's why he was. I was just like the way that it was done. I was like, it literally looked like, some sort of like like electrode. I'm like, is he like trying to revive her? Like, what's the deal here?
Well, he's a good friend.
He is.
Nobody else was giving her CPR.
Well, yeah. But once Gaby gets sick and she falls, the next scene that we get is basically she's in her room and she's, better, but she's still not feeling well. And Alex is just standing there staring at her. Just, not the best thing. And, he has like a whole reason for why he's watching out for her or whatever, I guess was the idea.
He's a cat.
Yeah.
He's a cat. He just is just staring at you for no reason.
But of course his first excuse when she asks, she's like, why are you just watching me? And he's like, well, there's nothing good on television. I'm like, Alex.
Yeah, those are the only two options.
It's like, watch
stare at your
television
sister or watch TV.
or
That's
watch
it.
you. I'm just like,
That's not good enough, Alex.
yeah, it's really not. But anyway, during this scene, Jamal brings in some soup from Grandma Jenkins, which unfortunately later we discover actually makes her sick again because it's made with vegetables from the garden, which is where the problem is. But Gaby is really excited about it, and during this scene, Jamal asks Gaby what the doctor said, and Alex immediately just starts answering for her, which gets this response from Gaby.
Alex, Jamal asked me.
Well?
Everything he said.
That keyboard.
Yeah, it's like every bit of that moment is attitude. It's crazy. I love Gaby. But I will say during this, we discovered, because just a little bit after this, Gaby gets sick, and Mr. Fernandez rushes in. One of the first things that he says is, "Oh, I wish your mother were here." And I'm just thinking, where is she? Why is she not in this episode? We've got so many other parents in this episode. Tina's parents are in this episode. One of the few times we get Tina's dad. Lenny's dad is even in this episode. He's finally decided to pay Lenny a visit, but we don't get Gaby's mom. And I'm just like, that seems like an oversight to me.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. She booked an NBC episodic, and they just couldn't work it out.
I will say, like, the Fernandez parents are like one of my favorite parts of this show. So I hope she was working. I really hope
so.
that she just was like too busy, just couldn't make it, and that's why she wasn't here. Because if it was the other thing, if for some reason they'd overloaded themselves with parents and decided she wasn't important, I'm like, no. That's not good enough, Ghostwriter.
That's not good enough.
Oh. But yeah, so there is a moment when she falls for the second time, and Ghostwriter asks, what's wrong with Gaby? But when he did it, normally the Ghostwriter animation is very, like, normal, and it's just moving letters around. But this time they did this weird thing with him, where he turned into basically, like, Flubber, and went around and, like, grabbed letters, and I was like, that's real weird looking.
He's concerned. He's worried.
They do a lot of interesting things with his animation in this episode. When he goes to find the hauling place, the waste hauling place, he like turns like sickly green, and the letters like burn into whatever he's written it on. Like they're definitely trying things with him in this episode.
Yeah.
Visually, at least. I don't know about any other way. But yes, around this time we discover that not only are more people getting sick, but also the rabbits died. And during this scene, Lenny decides to call a rally at her house on
Because that's
the
your
ground.
first response to a crisis where there's dead animals and sick people. Let's get all of our buddies together.
Yeah. On the ground in the garden in front of everyone. I'm just like, I hope you like rub that. I'm like,
Exactly.
Why are you
I
riding
thought
in
this
the
was
dirt?
a secret club.
Yeah. They're not the best at, disguising these things from people. But during this, they decide to organize a survey. So they start putting together and asking people, how they got sick. And this is how they eventually discover that there is a connection that everybody that got sick was either in the garden or had gone to the garden or had eaten something from the garden. And then they go to the garden and find the barrels. I mean, Ghostwriter points them to it, but they do find the barrels. I will say, what I thought was really weird about that scene is that they find the barrels, and they even remark, they're like, oh, it smells. Oh, it's giving me a headache. And what do? They don't
Let's take some
immediately...
more.
Yeah, they don't immediately tell someone. What they do is they go home and do word puzzles. I was like, what?
Yes. Also, I don't know if you were planning on mentioning it, but when they give the survey to Gaby,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
she's got this bizarre sort of like they're like, one of the questions is, what can you tell us, like, if you've been sick lately and what were your symptoms?
Yeah.
And she goes into this, it starts out normal, like I felt dizzy and then I felt sick in my stomach or I had a headache, but then it veers into this weirdly poetic description
That,
of
like,
her.
dreamlike
It was like
description
the
of her
rustling
fainting,
of the
yeah.
leaves and the wind in my face.
Yeah.
And
Honestly,
I think I'll redress it again.
Yeah, I will say, yeah, it was a little poetic, but honestly, I kind of liked that. Have you ever fainted or passed out?
I have.
Okay, yeah. So the one time I remember it happening, like it was literally like I was I had food poisoning, and I was just getting some water, and I had set down the glass of water, and then suddenly I looked up at the ceiling, and then suddenly realized I was on the floor. So it was kind of dreamlike. So I was like, I kind of like that aspect to it, but yeah, it was very poetic.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like maybe it was going to lead somewhere or be brought back later.
Yeah.
Or she would develop, a taste for narrative literature or something. But they never mention it again.
No, that's I think Rob was just giving her tips.
Okay.
Because Rob's the resident poet.
He is. You should have been taking notes, because that was some good shit.
Yeah. Maybe he should be learning from Gaby. But yeah, I think another thing that happens in this episode is we do get, like I briefly mentioned, the return of Lenny's dad. It's been like 4 or 5 story arcs since we've seen the man. He just decided, to check in on his daughter. She's been alone for about 6 months, and I guess his tour ended. I guess that's the situation.
She's got all the food she could ever want with the bodega downstairs. She's got an emergency contact sheet. Like, what else do you need?
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely tell that her and the Fernandez family are in constant communication, because one of the first things that happens when Gaby passes out is Lenny's like, I can give you their phone number. I know it by heart. I was just like, wow, all right. I mean, the kids are friends. They spend all this time together. It's just like, I know you're alone all the time, Lenny. I understand. You just need some support.
Yeah, it's like parentheses, I know all of your numbers by heart.
It was really funny to me, because later on there is a scene where, because in this episode, in this story arc, Sally, the woman that basically runs the community center, she and Lenny's dad, Mr. Frazier, kind of start flirting, and they're I guess dating by the time this story arc comes to a close. But what I thought was really funny is one of the first times they were going out, like, Dad was like, okay, so you've got food in here. And I'm like, yeah, you don't have to worry about her. She's alone all the time.
Yeah,
you act
can't
like
just start
you
being
never
a dad
leave her
all of a
alone.
sudden. What are you doing?
Yeah, it's like, okay, now that Sally's over, you're going to act like a parent. Gotcha.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
That's what it was. That's what it was. That's exactly what it was.
It's just, it's funny because I like the chemistry of the actors in the scenes that they're given. I think that a lot of their storylines are very, sitcom-y. You can find, this storyline in this story is, don't date someone. I don't want you to forget about mom. The same thing you can see on any show from this era.
Every show.
Yeah, it's insane. So I think that the storylines themselves are they're not imaginative, but I do like the two of them together. It's just kind of fortunate that we don't see it very often.
Yeah, exactly.
But yes, and so like I said, by the end of this episode, I remember watching this story arc when I was a kid and thinking that this was like a really it's definitely serious, but I just remember like thinking, oh wow, this is so serious, and like they are going overdrive trying to convey how serious this story is and how serious everything going on is. It's just like, wow, guys, you can kind of take you can kind of ease up a little bit. There is a bit, but there's a bit at the end of this episode, and the music is going on overdrive.
Was this Lenny's last line?
Yes. Towards the end of the episode, so we get this bit from Lenny.
But how did it get there?
I have no idea. But I do know one thing. We have to find out. This stuff isn't just poisoning our garden. It's poisoning us.
Really,
and all of a sudden,
laying it
it's
on
the
thick.
soundtrack to a Dario Argento film.
Yeah, it's like I don't think we could have gotten more melodramatic if we'd had the Phantom of the Opera in the background with his organ. Like it was just
like, come on, guys.
yeah.
It's a show about writing. You're not supposed to do that.
But this is one of their very special episodes. I will say, I as much as I do kind of, it's silly, it's cheesy, but I do enjoy this show for, what it is. And I think it holds up pretty well for the demographic that it's aiming for. But you can't deny that it very much kind of plays like an after-school special sometimes. And never more so than when it's subject matter like this. It's really kind of leaning heavily on those roots. And yeah, like you said, the music and the synthesizer is being heavily employed.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So then going into episode 2, I will say, okay, so I caught this during their little rewind, their recap of the episode. There is a bit when they're doing their little surveys where this guy comes into the bodega and sets down like 2 bottles, and like it looks just like Pepto and some other like stomach medicine. But number one, the first one I looked at, I was like, okay, I'm writing that down because it literally just says yippee. And then the other one is it was only half of it was turned toward us. But I did notice that both of them were just marked as seltzer. And I'm like, are you telling me that this guy just bought 2 different colors of seltzer? It's like, okay, I understand that.
Do you not?
Apparently the white seltzer is not nearly as good as the pink seltzer. But
Well, no, the white one is the one that you use as the mixer.
oh, okay.
The pink one is the chaser.
Okay, so we've got
Standard chemistry, man.
we've got our Pepto cocktails.
Yes, exactly. Would you not want that if it were available?
Well, I mean, I will say for the longest time I couldn't take Pepto-Bismol because, well, no, actually, it would make me feel better, but only because I would puke after taking it every
No, it's
single
disgusting.
time.
I don't understand. Why? And then they started making the Pepto tablets that are like chalky, and somehow they managed to make it worse.
Yeah. No, honestly, recently I've discovered the wonders of Alka-Seltzer. Because, like, you know, I always get a cold during cold season, and never fails. I will be over it within a couple of days or a week, but I'll have a lingering cough for months, which was not great during COVID time. Because people would just look at me and I'm like, I'm fine. But I took Alka-Seltzer, knocked it out. I was good to go.
Nice.
Yeah. But back to the story.
No, more product placement.
Yeah, absolutely. I just really thought it was funny that, you know, the guy was buying two different things and they both said seltzer on them. It's like, all right. But yeah, so at the end of the last episode, they played word problems to figure out that there was something dangerous in those smelly headache-inducing barrels in their garden. And when they go back, what I just thought this was really funny because I'm just assuming that Sally was walking in the garden and discovered that somebody had dug up half of a barrel and was like, oh no, this is bad, because apparently the kids didn't tell her. But at this point, the authorities are there and the kids come in, and one of them, I don't even know who it was, probably Alex, was like, They were like, no, kids, the garden's closed. And one of them was like, what? Why? And I'm like, why? Maybe because of the poisoned barrels you found.
No, but like, who are those people, right? Because they haven't called the actual authorities yet. These are community volunteers in the same T-shirt.
But yeah, they're literally digging up these barrels, and yeah, you're right. It's like, that's probably not a good idea.
You should not be the ones doing this.
No, because
they haven't had their extended bureaucracy, red tape, redirect montage yet, so they don't know.
They haven't done that. They haven't called the EPD. Okay, is it just okay? I'm like, first of all, are you talking about the EPA? And
no,
so,
this is city shit.
Okay, so it is EPD.
I'm giving them the benefit of that doubt.
Because I'm like, I've never heard of the EPD. I'm like, if it's supposed to be the EPA, why can't you just say the EPA? I don't feel like they would sue you for using their name in a program about environmental protection. But
well, maybe if you paint them in such a way that it doesn't reflect well on them, because they're not the greatest.
I mean,
in this.
They're not villains though. They're bureaucrats in this.
Right, but you don't know that. Like in this episode, you don't know.
I mean,
like, wait a second.
I will say
when they first called her office was so ominous looking. It's like, oh shit, she's been taking bribes from somebody to overlook this. Like, she's the villain.
Yeah. But I will say the kids at least think of them as kind of, if not the bad guys, at least part of the problem, because they're like, when they first are like, we can use this news lady to get the barrels taken out. They're like, yeah, we can use her to embarrass the EPD, and I'm like, that's not really they're not the ones at fault here. They're not going to be able to be embarrassed. It's, It's a broken system, but it's the one they got.
Yeah. Yeah, they're going by the rules that are there.
Yeah.
Even if they suck.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we established that they do eventually get a hold of them, and they do come out and basically figure out what the chemical is and all this kind of stuff. We eventually find out that it's called perk. It goes by another really big name that I did not write down.
Tetrachloroethylene.
Oh, there you go. Good for you. But yeah, I mean, during this bit, they're really trying to just figure out any way to get the barrels removed. Now that we know that the barrels are what is causing the sickness, and obviously they've been there for a while. I'm like, do we just need to dig up the rest of this garden? Because I'm a little afraid that there's like something buried under every corner of this garden.
Right?
But they're trying to figure out different ways. Like I said, they find a woman on the news, Fannie Mae Banner, who is played.
Melinda Mullen.
Yes, there you go, Melinda Mullen. Which, okay, have you ever seen?
Inexplicably, like Louisiana accent.
Yeah. She has like a southern accent to her. Have you ever seen the movie What About Bob?
That was my jam.
Okay. Did you notice how many people in this movie are from, or are, in this story, are from that movie? I mean, they're all like bit parts.
No.
But she is also the reporter in that movie. Let's see, it's Marie Grady. She plays the reporter that goes to visit them. And then the guy who ends up being the ultimate bad guy, Miller, in this, is played by Brian Reddy, who played Carswell Fensterwald, the guy who basically, sloughed off Bob to Dr. Marvin. And in earlier stories, now this isn't the same one, but in earlier stories, we had Fran Brill played Calvin's mom, and she was Lily in What About Bob? And then, of course, Marcella Lowry is Betty, the switchboard operator. So, yeah, lot of crossover for that movie. I loved that movie as a kid.
Yeah, me too.
They just kept popping out all over in this story for me. But yeah, so they decide that they are ultimately, when they figure out whoever it is that dumped these barrels, that they're going to get her. She's kind of, like a gotcha journalist kind of thing. She usually surprises people when they're about to get to awards and then tells everyone how horrible they are.
Don't you wish you could do that?
Yeah. The problem is now that for some people, the horrible things are known and apparently nobody cares. But yeah, so I mean, it would be great if it worked.
Wouldn't that be great? I think we're getting up on the second B storyline.
Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, we do have in this episode. It's so funny because they're never very. I talked about in the last episode how they don't really like. They've got a formula, but it's not like a very strict formula. So like they're starting to do B plots, but sometimes there will be like one B plot throughout the whole story. Sometimes there will be one in the second and the third episode. Sometimes there will be one that stretches from the first episode to the third episode and like a C story in between all of those as well. And it's just like, okay, pick one.
No.
Apparently not. But in this episode, the B plot, like I said, we get more of Tina's family, the Nguyen family, we get another story with Tina's mom and Tina's dad for a bit as well. A lot more than we got the last time he came in. And we also now meet Tina's brother, played by Wellington Welly Yang, Tuan in the show. And also, for the second time, we meet Linda, Tina's little sister, actually played by Han Tien Li Tran, who was Tram on Tran's real-life little sister.
Nice.
We basically, the storyline in this one is that Tuan he's in a band and he's been skipping school because he wants to be part of the band, and he also seems to kind of be diminishing his Vietnamese heritage, really taking for granted what his parents did for him, getting him to this country, wants to be called Tony, wants to be an American, and all this stuff. And I will say, okay, I have to play this clip because this is one of these things. Have you ever had something that, like, you just remember hearing something, it's just stuck in your head, even though it doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot, like it's just something that is stuck in your head? And this line from this episode in this storyline has always been stuck in my head. So I have to play this because now I can get it stuck in your head.
What are you doing? I went by. Look, you know American tea upsets my stomach.
Now, why would an American boy like you want Vietnamese tea?
Okay.
Dramatic music.
Yes. It's like, that's right. It's like, that's right. We got you, Tuan.
Yeah. That's what makes him do a whole reanalysis of his whole life's view.
Yes, that line. Why would an American boy like you want Vietnamese tea? And also, the way she says tea, like, I don't know. I just find it fascinating. Because it's like she's pronouncing the A, but in the wrong spot. It's like tea.
Yeah, and Lenny had a moment like that, too, in the first episode when she was talking with Sally before her dad came in and started immediately with the sexual tension. And she started, like, adapting Sally's English accent.
Yeah.
But just for, like, one line. Just one line.
Yeah.
What?
I don't know why, but for whatever reason, that line of dialogue has been stuck in my head since I saw it as a kid. Maybe it was the way that she said tea. Maybe it was, just because I wasn't, around a lot of Vietnamese culture and I didn't necessarily know what a lot of it, the importance of a lot of it. But yeah, for one reason or another, it's been stuck in my head. I will say I really like the way that they kind of finished off this storyline. I mean, it's a little cheesy, but it's still kind of sweet. The duet that Tuan and Linda do, where she's...
Oh yeah, no, it's the most wholesome fucking thing.
Yeah, I wrote down, I was like, this is so square, but I kind of like it. She is singing a Vietnamese song in Vietnamese, and he's playing the guitar along, and when she's finished, he then sings the English translation. Can't think of words. I'm like, it's very like beat you over the head. But at the same time,
and of course the parents come in and overhear it. He's like, "Oh wow, maybe being in a band isn't a total dishonor to the family."
He's like, "I love the combination of the American and the Vietnamese." Yes.
Like, oh well, that's why they wanted me in the band.
Yes, Father, that is why I want to be in the band.
Was it?
No, it's not. You are lying through your teeth.
You are lying.
Also, he says that he's missed school 12 times. It's like, and you're just finding out? That's
no, they would have called your ass like weeks ago.
Yes. It's like, somebody's being negligent here. Not sure who. Not pointing any fingers. I'm just saying. Somebody's not paying attention. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up that storyline. And then we do actually get to see Gaby back on her feet in this episode, to the point where she goes, she's walking past the garden and sees kids like trying to like break into the garden, and she's like, no, it's dangerous. Can't you see the sign? And you know, it's a very corporate sign. But they literally look at it and they're like, no, reading's hard. And then they climb the sign.
Whatever.
Yeah. And so the team decides to make new signs, both in English and in Spanish. I did like that bit. It's like, okay.
Yes, but again, with the fucking montage over the rap song.
Yes.
Like, you can't make an interesting montage when all that's happening is you're changing colors of markers.
Well, and what I find interesting about this song is that the song that they're playing in the background the entire time is a song that we actually heard Lenny write in the first episode, or in the first story arc. And I'm just
they get
like,
a lot of mileage out of that.
Oh yeah, well, and they've expanded it, because it is much longer than it was when we heard in that story. So I was like, wow, okay. But other than that, basically, we find out that you know, the team has lot numbers that Ghostwriter found from the EPD digging up the barrels, and they trace that to French garment cleaners. Who then they trace that to EcoSafe, who says they sold them to French garment cleaners, and then we meet Momo, who was in the original pilot episode, playing basketball with a very white Craig, and but he now works for this cleaning company, and I just found it really funny. Because he's like, we have those barrels carried off by a private hauler. And they're like, oh, do you know the name of the hauler? And he looks around. I'm like, dude, it's the
obviously
name of a
knows
company.
the name.
And then he looks at him and he goes, I don't know the name. And I'm like, what? Then why did you need to look around all sketchy? It's like, what's the point of that?
No.
Yeah,
no.
and then of course at the end of this episode, we get a mysterious phone call for Lenny,
which isn't mysterious at all.
No, because at the very beginning, I will say, not only are we getting the typical recaps at the beginning of the episode, but now they've started replaying the end of the episode at the beginning of the next episode, and I'm wondering if they're like just short on time for the episodes, if the episodes are running a little short for what they need to fill, and so they're just tagging on the end of the last episode so that they can just kind of save some production minutes.
Probably.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past them.
No.
But apparently it was Momo making that mysterious call, and he made the mysterious call to arrange to meet them to let them know that he doesn't know anything. But he can find out. And it's at this moment that I'm like, man, it's too bad we don't have a mysterious being that can just float through walls and look for key words. Man. Too bad.
That would be convenient.
Right? It's almost like it would be something written for this show. I will say...
Well, let's make some more phone calls.
Yeah. That, of course, then would have written out Momo completely from the episode. Not that he contributed a whole lot, but, at least the actor got paid. But because eventually he does tell them that basically he couldn't get into the office, and they end up having to use Ghostwriter anyway. So, yeah, I'm just saying, why didn't we do that from the beginning? But we also, and this is one of those, like I said, we've had different B plots in all of these episodes, but we've been teasing one since the beginning, and this is where we finally get the B plot with Lenny, her dad, and Sally. I will say, like, I thought about clipping some stuff out, but nothing was, like, particularly interesting or anything. But, like, Lenny's being a brat, but, like, to the point where I was just like, shit, Lenny. I was like, because Dad's like, oh, we're going to make waffles for breakfast. And or waffles for dinner. And she's like, I don't want to eat breakfast food for dinner. And like, he's trying to play with her, but she's just like, I'm going to starve. And it's just like, what do you do at that point?
Okay.
Yeah, it's like, but yeah, like, just the attitude she was throwing, I was just like, shit, all right, Lenny's mad. But yeah, I mean, that gets resolved pretty easily. Okay, so I gotta play this bit, okay, because I think that for the most part, I mean, yeah, like I said, it's very after school special, but I think they've done a decent job with the storyline and the material, but there's this scene with Jamal. And we completely forgot the first B plot in the first episode, because it's not really a B plot. The B plot in the first episode is that the Jenkins family is doing spring cleaning. Grandma's all about it. Mom doesn't care. Jamal tries to get out of it, but because Grandma's a badass, he can't. But
it's not a plot.
Yeah, it's really not. I will say, at least we actually get to see Jamal's mom. I mean, I always love seeing Grandma Jenkins. Grandma Jenkins is the best. She's great. And we get very little of his mom. And this is one of the few episodes that we actually get his mom, Doris Jenkins, played by Elizabeth Van Dyke, who, even though she's not in a whole lot of episodes, she's one of, I think, three, maybe four adults who's never recast. Yeah. But yeah, we get a little bit of her, but during that, we're introduced to that by Grandma finding Jamal's old rubber ducky for some reason under the couch in the living room, and he says he hasn't seen it for years. I'm like,
you
okay,
know why?
I'm just thinking, okay, maybe the Jenkins family really does need to do some spring cleaning if that's still under there from when he was a kid. So that's Melvin the duck. We're also then introduced to Bernie the bear, because Jamal wants to give that away to charity, and Mom's like, no, you can't. I guess all of that was done to set up this wonderful scene. And there's a lot to say about this scene, but let's just listen and then we can tackle it. So here we go.
Bernie the bear, meet Melvin the duck. Grrr. Well, duck Melvin, it's a bear. I saved you guys from the trash bin, so you owe me. One thing about being stuffed, you don't have to worry about perk, do you?
Okay, first of all, the whiplash in that scene, it moves from one tone to the other. And the biggest problem with that is that there's no music to tell us what to feel.
Well, there is, though.
I mean, the lack of music is really, it's like, this was supposed to be on the cutting room floor, but they needed more minutes, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes. But also, I mean, the little joke that he does to the duck and the bear is just like, oh my God, just goes to reinforce my point that Jamal, as much as I like him, is a dork.
Ready for one dynamite, dude?
He's just 100%.
Not a dynamite dude.
Yes. He is a dork. He's just such, that's not even dad jokes. That's just like bargain basement. Like, it's just real bad. Real bad.
And like, I thought the first time I heard it, like, I didn't hear that right. Right? Like, he didn't say, "Oh, Duck, Melvin, it's a bear."
Yep.
Like,
that's exactly what he said. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's real bad.
Oh, Duck.
There you go. That's the way we use it.
Duck me.
But yeah, I was just like the whiplash in that, because it goes from that ridiculous joke to, well, at least you don't have to worry about Perk. I'm just like, jeez, heavy-handed.
You're not gonna be poisoned by your own community. Wah, 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 wah.
I will say though, like, it did remind me of like the one other like environmentally conscious special of a special episode of a show that I remember watching, the Saved by the Bell one, where the duck, Becky the duck, gets covered by oil. And I just remember, because they played it like that duck was dead, and I just was like, I think that duck's all right. You just need to wash her off. She's okay. But it's just like another super heavy-handed.
That duck got fern-gullied.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no coming back from that.
Yeah. It's just like super heavy-handed, and I was just like, my goodness, guys. But yeah, so during this bit is when basically they do eventually employ Ghostwriter to find out who's doing the hauling. They get several names, but when they have him basically refine the search, they find that it is Miller's Hauling Company. Alex and Tina check it out. Weirdest first date ever. And you know, they do the bit where Tina sees the check that he's giving to the kids. Of course, it's blown up huge, and he's like posted it on a wall, and she's like, someone that gives to charity can't be all bad. And I'm like, oh, poor Tina. You're so,
poor Tina.
I feel so bad for the things you're going to discover for the rest of your life. Yeah.
Because that is the exact moment when the rest of us know, oh, that's the guy. Him.
Yeah. It's because he has to tell everyone how good he is. Yeah. But yeah, you know, they overhear him, basically demanding a shredder by Saturday. They pretend to be part of a group that he's getting a photo op with for donating the money. And then they run off to search his trash. And I don't think I really noticed, the first couple of times I watched it, but watching it this time, I was like, they didn't really do a great job with this note that they found, because it's obvious that they just didn't write letters in the places where there were supposed to be, stains. And I was just like,
yeah, sorry.
That's a real cheap looking prop.
The ball on that.
Yeah.
It's not good enough, Alex.
Yeah, you beat me to the punch.
That's not good enough, Alex.
Not good enough. Really not. But yeah, so basically they figure out basically that it is Miller, and what he must be intending to shred are the invoices that prove that he has handled these barrels. And I will say, though, I'm like, okay, you're going to shred the invoices, but there's still a human being that knows that you were contracted to do this thing.
Is there? Is there?
I will say we never meet Momo's boss.
So suspiciously absent.
Yes. Although I will say that if it hadn't been for the unseen Momo's boss apparently keeping his own personal records, because that's how they end up eventually having the evidence, they're like, well, Momo's boss would always write down whenever this happened. And I was like, so the man kept his own private records aside from these invoices. So if this guy wasn't so anal with his own business practices, you wouldn't have any like paper proof.
Because computer databases aren't a thing yet. So.
No, not at this point. But yeah, at the end of this episode, we do find out that the invoices have been stolen. I wonder who could have done it. Dun dun dun. Yes, but
Sally.
yeah. So when we discovered that the invoices have been stolen, we get a rare instance of Alex calling a rally. Most of the time, it's either Lenny or Jamal. We have had more recently. Rob's called a rally. Tina's called a rally. Alex called a rally previously. Still, so far, the only one who has not called a rally is Gaby. Yeah. But I will say I loved Gaby's reaction in this because they go around. They do this every time they call a rally. They go around to all the kids and show them receiving the rally message, and they're like, "Oh, let's go!" And they get to Gaby. And Gaby's like reading a magazine, and she's reading it, and all of a sudden it says Rally A. She puts down the magazine, she runs towards the door, and she's like, what am I doing? The rally's going to be here, in her perfect Gaby way. And then she goes and sits back down and starts reading her magazine again. I'm like, that's right, Gaby, you do you. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that they have the discussion basically of, the invoices have gotten stolen, and Alex and Tina again volunteer to go on their second date, spying on Miller. I'm just saying, Alex, you got to step up your game, man. Really got to step this up. But they go to basically spy on Miller because Tina has her camera, which she borrowed from school. I'm just like, all right, Tina, let's really hope nothing happens to this because those are expensive and schools.
And those were gigantic.
Yes.
Shoulder mounted shit.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Miller sees them, and that is what prompts them to then have to hide and jump into the truck full of garbage, where they, for some reason, have their first kiss. Yeah. Wonderful timing.
Look, we might die. We might never get the chance.
Yeah.
Let's do it for our country.
I will say, it is like the epitome of like 13-year-old awkward relationship first kiss. Because it's just like it's the quickest little thing. I'm just like, all right, yeah, that's, yeah. That makes sense. But yeah, it's at this point, because, they've already shredded the documents. Alex and Tina do take that with them. But it's at this point that we discover that Miller is apparently going to be receiving an award for Citizen of the Year. I'm like, wow, we've really just upped the stakes here all of a sudden. At this point, they're like, what I thought was so funny is when they say that, they're like, well, that's perfect. We got to call Fannie Mae Banner and tell her we got all this proof. I'm like, what proof? You've already said that the shredded documents in the bag are unusable. What is your proof? Because at this point, we don't know. They haven't even talked to Momo's boss. They don't know if he would testify. They don't know what he's got. I'm like, what proof are you talking? They do eventually find it, but at this, like, they're already planning on contacting her, and they're just like, she's gonna love all this proof we've got. I'm like, you have no proof.
No, you've got Miller on tape saying, well, whatever they were looking for, it's all in that garbage bag now.
Shredded.
Like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, they do eventually get the proof that they need. And originally, like, they do get a phone call from Fannie Mae, basically telling, because basically what they did is, like, they had to, like, submit the proposal in writing, And they basically just wrote a segment she would do on the news, which worked for her, of course, because it's like, you wrote my dialogue, kids. Of course I'll help you.
Right.
You did.
So
have
they
my
get
job
their second
done.
introduction into the adult world of like rhetoric and spin.
Yep, absolutely. We're just teaching all the hits to these kids. But she does tell them they need one more piece of proof. This is when we do find out that Momo's boss is just real anal retentive and, keeps his own personal records.
I'm telling you, dude, he doesn't exist. Momo is the boss, but it's like a split personality. He does not exist.
Oh, yeah. I'm thinking it's got to be like a Tyler Durden situation though for Momo, because it's like complete, like he obviously thinks there's another boss, because he's like, man, I'm going to get fired. I'm going to get fired. You got to stop talking to me. But yeah. Because he locks himself out of his own office. I don't know.
Yes. Because his other personality is the only one that knows where the spare is hidden.
See, this is the episode we needed. This is the episode we needed to watch.
Reboot.
Yes, there you go. The Momo Show.
Same wardrobe.
Yes, absolutely. I'm sure they've still got those clothes around there somewhere. But yeah, this is when basically Jamal actually is the one that brings up the fact that they need to put more pressure on Miller because the legal system sucks. Because he's like, he's just going to keep it tied up in courts and it won't happen for 6 months to a year or whatever. So, they basically decide to, make signs, basically create community pressure. And everything goes off without a hitch. They confront Miller. They bring the signs, and he does say that he will remove the barrels immediately. And it's so funny, like, the way that they ended this with the reporter and the guy, he's like just the level of frustration that he ends with. It seemed very Scooby-Doo to me. Like,
yes, it did.
I kept expecting it to say, and I would have gotten away with it too, if not for those meddling kids and their stupid ghosts too. I was just like, where was that villain speech? Oh, but yeah. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about the story arc itself?
Well, other than the whole, I think we get yet another. I think this is number 4 rap montage.
Yeah.
Of making another set of signs for the protest.
Oh yeah. Okay, so then let us go ahead and move on to the segment that we are now calling Ghostwriter Fashion. And as always, if you want to follow along with us, you can follow along on our Instagram. The pictures are going to be up there, and you can follow along. It's at the Flying Cowpod on Instagram, and you can take a look at what we are looking at. Like I said, this show started in the 90s, and the fashion in it, even if it's not like over the top, sometimes it's just odd. So this first picture that I've got, I have a couple different reasons. So this first one that we're looking at is Gaby in kind of like a light green shirt with a little scrunchie in her hair. And I will say, I've mentioned on several episodes, one of the reasons that I started this segment was because of Lenny's hats for the main was the main reason. Of course, they have kind of pulled back on Lenny's hats more recently.
Bullshit.
Well, I mean, some of them are still crazy. They're still there, but like in the first episode that we did, like there were 6 hats. 6 hats, and now there's like an average of like 2 or 3. So
Ow.
it's definitely less than it used to be. But I have noticed recently that Gaby's hair is almost as interesting as Lenny's hat sometimes.
I have to agree.
Because in this, and you know, I've missed some of the looks, but in this one she's rocking not only the side ponytail, but she has these huge bangs just engulfing her forehead. And I mean, first of all, is there anything that you want to say about this hair?
Well, the first thing that I thought when I saw this picture was that, you know how when a baby cat will look like an Ewok or a gremlin sometimes, like its ears are too big, it hasn't grown into its ears yet?
Yeah.
She has not grown into those bangs yet.
No, she has not. They are
They are designed for someone 3 times her size.
Yeah. Yeah, she's got monster bangs, much like Lenny's bow in the last episode, or in the last story. They are eating part of her face. But something else that I want to point out, and anybody that has listened to previous stories will remember us talking about Gaby's nightshirt. In a storyline, I want to say 2 stories or maybe 3 ago, she was wearing basically like an XL or a double XL shirt as a nightshirt. But not only was she, just wearing this oversized shirt, but it was inside out and backwards. And I just want to point out, if you look at the front of Gaby's shirt, you can see the outline of a tag that has been snipped. This is the same shirt. And I just think it's so funny because if you notice, this is not the only shirt like this that she wears throughout the episode. This is one of 3. The first one that she starts off with in the garden, and then there's a big pink one. Both of them have graphics on them that she is allowed to wear on the front of her shirt. I will say she wears a pink one later that it definitely has a graphic on it. The whole time that she's in it, she's holding like a pillow in front, so we don't actually get a. I mean, I think there's like one shot where she puts the pillow down that you can for like a second see what's there. I want to know what was on this shirt that caused them to not only turn it inside out but backwards, when the others, they had no problem being normal. I said it before. I'm leaving it out there. If anybody has any clue what was on this shirt, I have to know.
I'm telling you, it might not matter. This was a thing. I remember this in school. This was a thing that you did. You would have your shirt inside out and back. Like, it was just the way that some people wore their shit. I never understood it, but I remember that being the thing.
I think it's so, especially because if you look at the neckline, like it's up like against her throat. Like it's huge, so it's not like a big thing, but any smaller and it'd be choking the poor girl.
It's trying to battle the bangs, I guess.
Yeah. She's being attacked on all fronts.
It's just like, someone help her.
All right, so let's take a look at this next picture. It is, I believe, also this one is Gaby and Tina. And I wanted to pull this out because this is, like I said, Gaby's hair is often very interesting. And this is employing a look that she has used. I keep meaning to pull her hair photos out, but for one reason or another, it just hasn't made the cut before. But she often wears this like top knot, like samurai style top knot, on her head. In this one, it looks a little bit more like a bun, but in some others, it literally looks like if you ever have seen samurai films, like a samurai top knot, and it's just so interesting to me, because like the whole rest of it, like she's basically got her hair down, but in the middle of her head, she's just got this top knot, just kind of chilling there. And then, you know, I will say there's another look. I almost pulled it out, but I was like, it's not huge. But there's basically her hair is down, but you can tell she's got something in it in the back. And when she turns around, she's got a giant sunflower on her head, which it almost looks like that's what Tina's got going on in her hair. But I believe it's just like a bun pulled back. Maybe some sort of scrunchie. But, I mean, unless you have something you want to say about this.
No, I got nothing. No. This is like one of the more tame.
More normal. Yeah. All right, so let's move forward. All right, so now we are in the Lenny section of our photos. And I had to pull this out because Lenny's pants matches the decor of her house.
I think that's where they came from.
Yeah, because like
she's home alone all the time. Yeah. What is she gonna do?
She's cutting up the couch cushions. Yeah, it's just I just think it's so interesting because everybody else, like, you know, they're not like boring outfits, but they're very normal. And then you look at Lenny's, like, you know, her top looks fine, but her pants are just this explosion of color. They're kind of cool. It's just they're very loud.
They are very. What? I can't hear you over them.
But yeah, it did catch me for a second when I came onto this picture because I was like, she kind of blends into the background just a little bit.
Yeah, like with the way that the height of the pillows is almost the height of her belt, so it's like she's a disembodied torso.
A little bit, especially if you squint. Yeah, she's just floating there. She and Ghostwriter are gonna get along great.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the next picture. All right, so this is another very colorful, very loud outfit, and she is again employing her kufi hat, and this one very much matches the rest of her outfit, and she's wearing. I could not make out what it is, but some very decorative necklace. It's a nice little ensemble she's got going.
It looks like it was made of the tiny bones of the rabbits that died. Am I wrong? Is that just me?
She's just like, oh, Sally, I'll take care of them.
Sorry. At the community gardens, we recycle.
Yeah. She's just removed the spinal column of the rabbit, wearing it around her neck.
You just human centipeded all of the spines.
Oh, jeez.
Centipeded, I guess.
Oh, but yeah.
Okay. Now for a word from our sponsor.
All right. Let's see. Yeah. So this next one. Outfit's normal, but wearing another one of those. It's a similar shape to the kufi hat, but it doesn't look exactly the same. I don't know if you have any idea what kind of hat this is, or maybe I'm just being too didactic. Maybe it's the exact same kind of hat.
I'd have to see it from a profile to know for sure. It does have the shape of I don't know if there's a name for it, but a lot of dude friends that I had in school had that kind of hat. Like there was a very small, narrow brim on one side, and they usually wore it backwards so you wouldn't see it. So it looked like this.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think... I don't remember seeing... I do think I remember at least seeing her from the back with it on. I don't think it had a brim. I think
I suspect this is another of the same kind she usually wears.
Okay. Like I said, this has kind of become her signature hat, even though it's the one that I'm kind of like, all right, okay, about. But yeah, moving right along. Okay, so I included this because this takes place during the scene where she makes up with her dad, but this is like in the middle of the night. She's getting like a bowl of cereal, and I'm just like,
what is on this robe?
Huh?
What is on this robe? It looks like different slices of bread.
I'm just like, even her sleep clothes are loud. Like, it's just insane. It's like, do you not wear anything that doesn't have a pattern?
I was trying to, when I was first watching it, I was trying to figure out what that is.
Yeah, it's pretty insane.
And then juxtaposed with her dad just wearing the all black jazz man uniform.
Yep. But yeah, I was just like, well, Lenny, you're not going to be missed. Nobody will ever miss you in a crowd. You will always
but they
stand
might
out.
though. In that kitchen, the kitchen is the same. The kitchen is just as loud. All these mismatched tiles.
You've got the pink counters, the blue cupboard, the tile. Yeah, the multicolored tile.
Did she redo the kitchen while he was away?
I'm almost convinced that this is her apartment and Dad just visits.
He's got a whole separate house in Connecticut.
Yeah. He just stops in whenever the authorities are sniffing around, just to make sure that he's not a complete deadbeat. All right, let's move on. All right, so this is just one of the few appearances we get of Jamal's mom, and I just wanted to pull this out because she is wearing basically a traditional African headscarf, and Jamal, as dorky as he is, always looks good. Crazy shirt, but it looks great.
But he will wear these fancy ass button down long sleeve collared shirts while he's doing his katas in his room.
Yeah. I mean,
excellent form, but what?
Yeah. He's always dressed to impress. It's inspiring, really.
It is.
All right, and then I think this is the last one. Okay, so I pulled this out because I just kept looking at these. This is the picture of the EPD pulling up the barrels, and I just kept looking at their heads, thinking, what is up with these protection suits? Because it looks like everything is harnessed and tied down, and the yellow hood just looks like a hoodie. I'm like, what kind of thing did they throw together to make these protection suits?
Yeah, and the white hazmat suits don't appear to be zipped all the way up in the back. And then in the same scene, the head agent of the EPD, the lady, she takes off her little mask, but the whole she's not in a hazmat suit. She's wearing a mini skirt. Yeah,
I was going to say, you can see her in the back just kind of standing there in her full business attire. She's not wearing any sort of protective covering except for, like you said, the mask. But that's it. And I'm just like, why are you just their business liaison? I feel like in every other piece of media that we've had, whenever the person in charge comes out, they're also in a hazmat suit. That's just it's just I mean, I don't know if this is actually more accurate than the other. They're both media depictions, but yeah, it
sticks out. I bet because she's wearing high heels too.
Yeah.
And why?
Yeah. I mean, she wants to look good. I've got nothing against that, but I'm just thinking, uncovering barrels in a hazardous waste site, maybe not the time and place.
What do we know?
Yeah.
We're not experts. We don't work for the EPD, which is a real thing.
Maybe, yes. Maybe she is the best dressed field agent that they have. They've got to put...
Who has the authority to place the Citizen of the Year under arrest.
Yeah, absolutely.
She must know what she's doing.
Yeah, she's got to. Yeah. If she doesn't, who does?
Exactly.
All right. Well, moving on then. At this point, we've got a couple of segments that we like to do. The first one coming up is Top Suspect. So this would be the person in the episode that, and it can be anyone, the person that either you liked the most or was the most interesting or was having the most fun or, any criteria. And it, like I said, it can be anybody. It can be somebody main cast, side cast. It could even be Ghostwriter if you want. But who would you say is your top suspect?
Momo's other personality.
Momo's, quote, boss.
Boss. It's just an elaborate tax write-off scheme. It's like, there are no employees, so he doesn't have to.
It's true. We never see anybody else working there.
No.
Momo's the only person that we see coming out of that cleaner. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put it. I wouldn't rule that out. Absolutely. All right. So my top suspect. I got to give it to Gaby. She just. I mean, she started off the whole episode, getting sick, and she's got so much spunk. She's just so much fun to watch. She's always is my favorite, but I just thought that this was a great storyline for her, so I'm giving it to Gaby.
Worthy.
Yes. All right. So then, what is your rewind moment? A moment in the episode or a scene that either was your favorite or a moment that made you go, "What?"
Okay, so I'm trying to stick with things that we haven't already talked about, and I have two things left over, and it's hard to. So, so on a serious note, the scene where they've put their new English and Spanish signs up around the Wardendorf garden, and they're walking by, and they notice like a homeless woman is in there getting food, and they're like, "Ma'am, no, didn't you see the signs? Like, the food isn't safe, it's contaminated, there's poison in there." And she's like, "Well, it's still food."
Yeah, she's right.
What, like, I'm hungry, this is food for free.
Yeah.
So like, I was like, damn, shit.
Yeah.
But then they're like, come to the bodega. Like, we have food at the bodega. Like, we'll give you food. And so, like, that's cool. But it's like you said with the whiplash sometimes of the like very serious moments they stick in here.
Yeah. What I love about that moment is that Alex unilaterally makes the decision that his dad will let this woman have food for free. I'm like,
don't tell your friends.
Yeah.
It's just for you.
Yeah. It's like, don't pass this around because, we're still low income, we're still not doing great. Me and my sister live in the same room. We're the only ones on the show that have to share a room. So
there's
don't pass this around. There's going to be a whole
other arc later on where I have to like be accused of dealing drugs to afford a $50 coat.
Yeah, that's how cool. Bad it is.
It's always Alex, right? So then, like the completely not serious moment. Like, it was supposed to be serious, I think, but I couldn't take it serious.
Yeah.
Alex is like trying to figure out what's wrong with Gaby. What has she maybe been poisoned by? And he looks up, goes to the library, and he gets the book, and he looks up the name of the like tetrachloroethylene, and it's a description of the stuff. Like it's used in cleaning machine works and in dry cleaning, and if it gets in the water supply, it can maybe kill the fish and the animals. And he like looks up, he almost looks directly into the camera and is like, "Kill."
Yeah.
Like, what? It's like this most melodramatic breaking the fourth wall thing.
Yeah. Mine was also a bit of a toss-up. I mean, I still am not entirely sure about that moment at the beginning where, when Gaby faints and Ghostwriter's just pulsating on her chest. I'm just like, I'm not sure what the point of that is. I'm not even sure the show knows what the point of that is. But I think the one that I've got to give it to, the one that really just made me go, what? Why is this scene in the story is the Melvin and Bernie scene? I'm just like, every bit of that is from the really bad dad joke to the, well, at least you don't have to worry about Perk. I'm just like, whoa. Like, even the music left this scene alone. Like, that's how bad this scene is.
And they knew it. They knew.
Yeah.
They knew.
Yeah. That's got to be my rewind moment. All right. So then, just a couple more things. First of all, Christina, if Ghostwriter were real and he wrote to you, would you write back? And if so, what would you say?
Whatever I said, I would narrate it out loud at the same time I was writing it, because that's how you do.
That's how it's done. Absolutely.
That's how it's done. Mm-hmm. I mean, sure, right? Because like, if you're working on new material, what better way to workshop it than somebody who can't
give you honest
heckle you out loud?
Yeah. I mean, it might be very cheesy feedback, but he'll give you feedback. I want to see my Scrabble tiles stop motion moving into words. Who doesn't want that? Really?
Communists. That's who.
Oh, all right. All right. So, the identity of Ghostwriter was intended, at least, to be a big part of the show. You know, it's introduced very early on, and in the early episodes, they drop a lot of hints, and they make it sound like it's going to be like an ongoing thing, that they want to eventually solve the mystery of who Ghostwriter is. Unfortunately, you know, we definitely have episodes. We do have episodes that tackle it, and then we have episodes that don't mention it at all. But within the course of the show, they never actually answered the question. However, there was eventually an interview given where they revealed the identity of Ghostwriter. Would you like to hear that?
I actually have heard that.
Oh, you've already heard this before. So, like, when you found that, what was your reaction to that?
You know, it made total sense.
Yeah.
And I liked the, you know, working in a more aspirational element to it. Mm-hmm. That, you know, that if a person in that situation can use reading and writing to better themselves, then anybody can.
Sure.
They tried to reboot it once, I think, but it only lasted a season.
Yeah. I think on CBS, like a year after this one ended, and of course, you know, now they've got one on Apple TV. But from what I've heard, both of those were completely different. I mean, I've seen neither one, so I wouldn't know for sure.
No. I think I've outgrown my Ghostwriter phase, per se.
Yeah, sure.
I say that wearing this hat.
Yeah. Yeah, for our listeners, Christina is currently wearing a Lenny-inspired Koofy-style hat. It's very nice.
It's from the Southern Church Lady collection.
Oh, there you go. I am wondering though where your super loud pants are. Those are gray. Lenny wouldn't be caught dead in those.
No, I'm telling you, there are many.
All right.
Keep my drawers in the drawers.
All right. Well, I want to go ahead and take a moment to let everyone know where they can get contact with the podcast. You can find us on a lot of things, just at the Flying Cow Pod. That is Twitter at the Flying Cow Pod, the Instagram, the Flying Cow Pod, and the email is theflyingcowpod@gmail.com. And, there's also a Facebook group if you want to do that. But, Christina, I want to give you the opportunity. If there is anything that you would like to share, anything that you'd like to tell people about, and then if you want to promote anything that you are enjoying in pop culture, with a bonus if it is anything that uplifts the voices of women or people of color.
Well, I am up to date on the Lovecraft Country, which has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, lots of people like that show.
Jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah. You're, I think, the 4th or 5th guest in a row that's promoted that. So yeah, it's a good one.
Well, I did an independent film with one of the a guy that plays one of the police officers on that show. So
nice.
He sadly met his end in the last episode.
No.
I was wondering if he would get devoured by Cthulhu or something more mundane, and it turned out to be a combination of both.
Oh wow! Well, there you go. Best of both worlds.
Yeah, exactly. So there's that, which hopefully will be coming out at some point somewhere. I'm not aware of the plans for releasing or distributing of that. And what else? There's another film called Olivia, which is available on Amazon Prime, and I guess you would call it a featurette. It's not a short, but not quite a feature. It's about 45 minutes, but definitely not a comedy.
Sure.
It was written for the purposes of depression and suicide awareness. So it's kind of dark and intense and in your face, but I think important for people to understand, get a better openness toward reducing the stigma that's associated with mental illness.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's a narrative, so it's that's available on Amazon. And gosh, how many years has it been since suspension of disbelief?
Oh, I can't even. What year was that? Was that like 2015?
I hadn't moved here yet, so yeah, I think it was about that. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah,
it's been a while. Typecasting.
Yeah.
Typecasting.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was in the middle of a really great theater show, and then it got shut down in March for the COVID, and so just. Yeah, theater's just not been happening yet, which is correct.
But, yeah. Have you been able to do like any like online table reads or anything?
No, I mean, well, the shorter productions like commercials and stuff have gotten back up. So like there's a Pepsi commercial that has started running now. That I'm in, but I think it's only airing on TV in the Carolinas because it's got a Panthers player in it. Sure. But the independent things are the ones that have a better it's either small independent things or Tyler Perry.
Yeah, there you go.
Because he can just put you and your whole family up in his compound for weeks at a time before and after your shoot. Quarantine away. Like, must be nice. You should rent that out for other things.
There you go. All right. Let's see. It took me so long because between prepping for the podcast and my work, which has just recently increased, I have not had the opportunity to watch a whole lot of things in between the last time I have recorded. But I have decided to promote something because, it's by the time this comes out, it will be October, the horror month, Halloween. And so I have decided every year I try to watch more horror movies. When I was younger, I thought for the longest time that I didn't like horror movies. And then I just realized that what I mostly, at least what I thought I didn't like, was slasher films, and I was just putting them all in the same. Of course, now I've watched some slasher films, and I like some of them, not all of them, but some of them. But last year, I watched one that I just absolutely loved. No, I can't remember.
You loved it a lot.
Yeah. Well, it's there it is. Happy Death Day.
Yes, I think I've seen that as well.
Which it's not directed by a woman, but it stars Jessica Roth as basically a college student who keeps reliving the day of her death over and over and over in a Groundhog Day type scenario, and it's fun and entertaining, and it's also kind of poignant and smart. And I also really liked the sequel, Happy Death Day to You. I know a lot of people did not. I thought it was great. But yeah, so both of those are great to check out. But with that being said, Christina, thank you so much for being on the show. Yeah, it has been great to, talking to someone that actually remembers this show. Like and not to the point of, oh yeah, I think my little brother watched that once, or I saw an episode.
No shame.
Yeah.
No shame.
Yeah. But yeah, it's been great talking to you. Hope to have you back for something at some point.
Yeah, you too, man. Like anytime. I'll just be watching 90s PBS shows anyway. So like, just let me know.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, I think you mentioned that when I wrote, and let's just keep this going. Let's review Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, or
Keep
Wishbone.
Yes.
Square One. Yeah. Do you remember Square One? Because I
do.
I bring that show up like every once in a while, and nobody has any idea what I'm talking about.
Dude, I remember the fucking letter people. I'm old as hell.
All right. Well, join me next time when we will be discussing an episode that is all about the gangs. It's called Building Bridges. And if you ask me, it actually has quite a bit of other social commentary in it. We will discuss that. But yeah, join us, and until then, Ghostwriter out!
People always talk about how the world needs to change, but not when it's their life they've got to rearrange. So knock wood for the kids in the hood who take up the slack, leading the pack on the right track. It's time for a change. Check it, gotta look forward and up, or we'll be down and out long-term thinking, not the quick fix without a doubt. Talk is cheap, actions speak louder than words. Listen up, in case you haven't heard. Pollution of earth, mind, body, and soul. My generation says just say no. Educate or devastate before it's too late. Erase the hate, don't hesitate, cause it's time for a change. Things just can't stay the same. Life is more than a game, you know? Time for a change. Things just can't stay the same. Life is more than a game, you know? It's time for a change. The clock is ticking, time's running out. Don't sleep, cause when you wake up, there might be nothing left. Kicking nothing but the facts straight. 411. Yo, peace, I'm out here.